quarterback Adam Shine, 9 Eastern.
Let me make sure I'm clear, tough guy.
He looks beyond the wins and losses and identifies the trends you need to know. Every week on Mad Dogs Unleashed, you're going to hear Super Bowl MVP Phil Simms and insiders Peter Schrager and Mike Lombardi preview the action. We're talking football all week long on Mad Dog Sports Radio Channel 82, in the car, and the SiriusXM app.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. You gotta get this. You gotta get this. Thank you.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 0181286.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vini Vini Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! Oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I told you I was voted to neighborhood spokesperson, and my job is to make sure that people come together. And I like doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning, and some people just don't appreciate it. That's their fault. That's their fault, not mine. They should have counted all the votes. As they counted all the votes, they realized I won the election, and I'm so proud of that. I do want to say what a beautiful day in Dimder Hills, California. It is beautiful Super Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord did split you too wide, because a lot of people walk around with a wide split. It's okay to have a wide split if you want one, but be careful when you go to those fast food drive-through eateries. They give you a wide split called a double-double and a Diet Coke. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got some college football to talk about today. I got some story about the Big Ten, which has 18 schools, with USC and Michigan having some of the highest ratings for CBS in about 2 decades. So that's impressive, bringing in a Pac-12 powerhouse, playing a Big Ten powerhouse. Those games were normally played in the Rose Bowl. I believe the last time USC played at Michigan was in 1960 or so. What a great game that was. But I know there was some poor officiating too, but that's called an indoctrination. What's an indoctrination, Big C? When someone indoctrinates you. Oh, okay. That explains that. But I also got some NFL talk to talk about last night. Jalen Daniels had a great game with the Washington Commanders. They went into Cincinnati, and they beat the Bengals. That good boy had one of the most favorable games you could get as a rookie in the history of the NFL. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got blown out by the Buffalo Bills. In a real fight, I think a Jaguar would beat a buffalo, if that makes sense to you. But these are not your ordinary buffaloes. They're like pterodactyl Jurassic Park buffaloes. And they put a beat down on those good boys called the Jaguars. Well, I love bringing you a Big C Sports podcast. I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man, and I'm running for president of the United States of America. And when I'm elected, just like now being elected to be neighborhood watch person, I'm going to make sure reparations is the first thing that I do. Big C, what are you going to sign into law your first day in office? Reparations now, reparations forever. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm gonna sign reparations into law for everybody. Everybody can be happy and stimulate the economy. I always want to say I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all have more laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play. First and 10, 50-yard line. 4 wideouts, the 5-man front, the Niners up to the line of scrimmage, Joe Montana in the shotgun formation, Dallas Cowboys with the 5-man front, the snap, Montana rolling to his right, rolling, throws downfield, the ball is caught for the touchdown, Niners, Big C, 50 years, Montana to Big C, you've heard that before, and that's what I do with Big C Sports Podcast. That's my story that I'm sticking with it. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And then, as I love saying, I'm very proud of the fact that I've never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew back in the days at Salem Media. And now we have people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. Now we got people who miss practice. And then I'm going to tell you, I love what I do with Big C Sports Podcast. It's important to me that you do what you love. You can spend your whole life farming another man's farm, and when he says it's time to go, you got to go. You can spend your whole life farming another woman's farm, and when she says it's time to go, you got to go. But if you have your own farm, you never have to worry about losing your job. That's my story. And I'm sticking with it. You got to give that some praise. Having your own thing, give that some praise. I say give it praise. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. That's my story, and I love saying let there be light. And I want to make sure that I shine light on a subject that's really near and dear to me. It's called the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. They will stand on their head to get our veterans some help. If you know anybody going through issues, it's one thing to say thank you for your service. But more than saying thank you for your service, how about we say there's a crisis hotline that you can call if you're going through issues? What's the hotline, Big C? It's called 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. But if you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And the show is good when somebody's leaning back. I love leaning on somebody when somebody is leaning back. Got so many great things I want to talk about today. I have a love for sports. Sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this $1 billion industry. And that's why I love bringing you a Big C Sports podcast. But that's not all. Not only that, I love bringing you real life. Real life is important to me. Just like USC found out that life in the Big Ten, you don't have the favor that you had when you were in the Pac-12 all fan level. A face mask is not necessarily a face mask, and a horse collar is not a horse collar. There was a horse collar on one of the USC receivers, and the Michigan player was not flagged because he said, well, I thought it was a Trojan horse. How else can you grab a horse? I tell you, when you go into another man's house, you got to play by his rules. USC had double the penalties call that Michigan had. that makes no sense unless you understand politics. That's politics. That's my story. I'm taking it with it. Well, as I always tell you, I love the Big C team and the RDC team. I have a commercial. I want to run that commercial. Pay attention because there may be a quiz. Nam yo rinke yo, nam yo rinke yo, nam yo rinke yo. Now that's my Buddhist chant. I'm doing more of the Buddhist chant. Buddhism was around before Jesus Christ, and one of the most significant attributes of Nichiren Buddhism is its easily accessible practice of chanting Nam Yo Rinke Yo, Nam Yo Rinke Yo, Nam Yo Rinke Yo. It's a profound yet simple method of Buddhist practice. It's the perfect Buddhist teaching for the modern world, and I love doing the chanting of the Buddhist chant Nam Yo Rinke Yo. That's my story, and I'm taking with it. At the same time, I have a commercial. I hope it makes sense because it's going worldwide. Ready, set, go. Let me do my best football vernacular. Hut 1, hut 2, hut 3. Ready, set, go. Asset protection. I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth resource development consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law office of Attorney Scott Thibodeau and also the law office of Attorney George Jones, Esquire. The missing link, long-term care, solutions by the book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. There's something called entitlements, and 9 out of 10 people do not know about the entitlements. Medicare and You, the taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other parts of the country, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and you got to tell them Big C sent you. Our promise to you, specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits. Now, most people that I talk to, even attorneys, they don't know that long-term care is an entitlement signed into law by Lyndon Baines Johnson. So when you have attorneys saying they're going to do a trust for you, ask them to put in writing that they will help you trigger your long-term care entitlements. And if they don't do it, then they'll pay your medical bills when you're dealing with long-term care. And 1 out of every 2 people will deal with long-term care at some point in their life. It's an entitlement. You get that through the RDC team. So when you deal with other attorneys, have them put in writing that they know how to trigger your long-term care entitlements. Are they going to pay your long-term care bills? Have them put it in writing. And they won't do it. They won't do it. But the RDC team will be putting in writing protection of your assets without the spend down. The spend down's over in California. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. We have ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, protection of your assets. Are you saying Aflac? No, Aflac's the duck. That's gap insurance. A duck can't protect his own assets. How can it protect yours? Asset protection. Hut 1, hut 2, asset protection. I want you to think about protecting your assets next time you watch football, high school, college, or pro. Asset protection. You get that with the RDC team, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. You better believe if you don't have a will, the probate court, they will have one for you, and you will not like it. Now, I was talking to some good old boys, some attorneys, some really good attorneys. They're called AV-rated lawyers through Martindale Hubbell. They grade the lawyers. And I was told, Big C, would you believe that 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust? I said, oh, you must be out of your mind. They said, no, seriously, Big C. 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust, but 7 out of 10 Americans have cable TV. You got to believe that if you don't have a will and a trust, you're going to end up in probate at the end of life, and they will love you because those lawyers take about 10 to 40% of all your assets. They love when you don't have a will and a trust. But you mostly have cable TV. Get the will and a trust. You get it with the RDC team. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Give that some praise. I say give that some praise. You got to have a trust. But I'm not done yet. I got to tell you, what does a trust do? It's for asset protection. think about football when you think about the Big C team and the RDC team. Hut 1, Hut 2, asset protection. It's important. Insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care. Avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, Big C? Does your trust protect that? I'm glad you asked. A trust protects your bank account, your checking account. In fact, you know what happens when you are a person of substantial wealth and something happens and someone wants to sue you and they want to come after all your assets. Those attorneys like Darth Vader, they will use the force to come after your assets. Your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market account, your certificates of deposit, your life insurance with cash values, your fixed indexed annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? Would you trust to protect that from Darth Vader lawyers? Exactly, I'm glad you asked. Because those Darth Vader lawyers, they say join the dark side. Call court. The variable assets you protect with a trust, your real estate, qualified money, your IRAs, your 401ks, and other investments. For example, avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000. What can I buy that house, Big C? Well, let me tell the story. Let's say 1 year later, that house appreciates to $1 million. Well, that's a $900,000 capital gain. You avoid that with a trust. You got to know that it's important. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Over 3 decades of experience, you got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And when you do, you got to tell them Big C sent you. Well, Big C, why would I use your guys with the RDC team when I got a friend and he also does trust? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked because a lot of people do trust. But ask your friend, as 1 out of 2 Americans will end up at some point in life dealing with long-term care. It's an entitlement. Signed into law by Lyndon Baines Johnson. Dr. Martin Luther King was with him when he did it. Ask those lawyers doing your trust if they will pay your long-term care. Ask them that question and have them put it in writing. In writing? Yeah, have them put it in writing. The RDC team does. We put it in writing. And that's why we have the endorsements of the late James Gomez. Who's the late James Gomez, Big C? Well, he advised 4 California governors that led change in California's nursing homes. He was also the CEO of California Association of Health Facilities. But not only that, he served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years, and he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have the late Robert Carlson. He was the top legal counsel for CalPERS. You ever hear of CalPERS in California? Well, he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have attorney George Jones Esquire. He's the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. He endorsed the RDC team. We also have attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, works with many of the top lobbyists in Northern California at the state capitol. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mrs. Cheryl Brown. Now, she's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development. He's been doing it for over 34 years. You can Google it. Resource Development, Inc. It's important to know that. But not only that, we have the endorsement of Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charles Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, has its own BHC Sports Podcast Corporation, the #1 sports show in the universe. I endorse the RDC team, and so will every sports league too, because the word's getting out. But not only that, we have Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, she has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on accesssacramento.org. Also, KUBU 96.5 FM and eatprivate.net. She endorses the RDC team, also business development consulting. You got to give that some praise. I say give it praise. You got to give that some praise. I love giving that praise. You know, I'm one of the biggest proponents in the universe that talks about sports and reparations. You can do this research on your own. You can Google the owners that own professional sports leagues. Many of them got their money as beneficiaries of family members that got money from the Homestead Act. What's the Homestead Act, BC? United States government gave white Americans 160 acres of land, and even white Europeans, in 1862. They told black Americans no. According to Einstein, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Imagine if you gave every African American 160 acres of land back in 1862. There would be no wealth gap. And that was after slavery from 1619 to 1865. There would be no wealth gap. And then after that, after the Homestead Act, 100 years of Jim Crow. No GI Bill, no reparations, just being told pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. You know, I believe so much in that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I don't want to waste my mind, and I don't want to waste yours. But what I want to do is be factual. And I'm asking good people all over the world, you know, you people, to do what's right by reparations. I was told in a story one time, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I want you to hear the greatest speaker in the history of this country about reparations.
And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, you know, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it, I mean, murdered them, murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. You know, it's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
So we suffer from a kind of poverty of the spirit, which stands in glaring contrast to our scientific and technological abundance. The problem is, my friends, that we have learned to fly the air like birds and We have learned to swim the seas like fish, and yet we haven't learned to walk the earth like brothers and sisters. Racial injustice is still the black man's burden and the white man's shame. So wherever we live in America, we have to face the fact honestly that racial discrimination is present. So don't get complacent. Certainly we made some strides. We made some progress here and there, but it hadn't been enough. It hadn't been fast enough. And although we've come a long, long way, we still have a long, long way to go. In 1863, the Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Abraham Lincoln. But the Negro was not given any land to make that freedom meaningful. And you know, it was something like having a man in jail for years and years, and then you suddenly discover that this man is innocent. Go to him and say, now you are free. A man's been unjustly jailed for 35 or 40 years, and you just put him out of jail saying, now you are free. Don't give him any bus fare to get to town, no money to buy any clothes, no money to get something to eat. This is what happened to the black man in this country. I can't limit my concern to the middle class. I can't limit my concern to this particular situation where a Negro comes and says, I'm the first this, I'm just tired of the first Negro. I want some seconds and some thirds and some fourths. The civil rights movement has to address itself to this, and the nation has to do it. You see, we are such a rich nation and affluent nation. We often don't see the poor. There are some, you see, most white people can't see the poor because they live in the suburbs. And then they get in town in these big cities on expressways. They don't know nothing about Watts. They've never been there. They don't know anything about Huff and Cleveland or the west side or the south side of Chicago or Holland. They've never seen it. And they allow the poor to become invisible. And a lot of Negroes, you know, who have somehow sailed or floated out of the backwaters or the muddy waters, and they've kind of been able to ease out into the fresh flowing waters of the mainstream, have forgotten the stench of the backwater. And I can hear a voice saying that wasn't enough. I was hungry and you fed me not. I was naked and you clothed me not. I needed shelter and you didn't give it to me. I needed a drink of water. And in a while, that's 3/4 water, you made me pay a water bill.
Now you heard Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talk about reparations and why it's so important for the good people of not only the United States but the world to be a part of that repair. I'm going to let you hear before we stand up for the kickoff, because we've been trained in touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. We've been trained that way. Dr. ARIKANA Chambori Quo, listen to what she says on the National Action Network about reparations.
The abuse is not just for Africans on the continent. The abuse is for black people wherever you find us. I'm going to share with you some basic facts. You don't expect those who put us in a position of servitude to undo the damage. They will continue it for as long as we're stupid enough to continue to listen to their lies. Wake up, Africa. Wake up, black people around the world. Africa is your problem. Own it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For Africa to change, for you to be able to benefit from what is yours. What's in Africa is the inheritance of every black person on earth. But if you're stupid enough to listen to the lies, and while
It's not just for Africans on the continent, the abuse is for black people wherever you find us. I'm going to share with you some basic facts. You see, our story is a simple one. Our story is of truth and facts, which are two constants that do not change. And all we need to do is give the world an overdose of our truth and insist on it. As we speak today, I'm going to take you back centuries, long before the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves. There was some serious resistance when the occupiers from the West came to Africa, contrary to what some might think. They didn't just give up their children, but the fighting began long before slavery. And the resistance was those who led them, the majority of them, their heads, as we speak today, are sitting in jars in Europe. Are you aware of that? Our leaders, our ancestors who fought the wars of resistance, their heads, their remains are sitting in jars throughout Europe. And the same people have the audacity to come to Africa and talk to us about human rights. But what's even more disturbing is that we entertain them and we don't remind them of these skeletons in their closet. As we speak today, the priceless artifacts that they stole from all over Africa are sitting in their museums throughout Europe. And when you and I, when we visit Europe, we pay to see what belongs to us. Evidence of theft, evidence of murder on display in plain sight. As we speak today, black people are listed as 3/5 of a human being in the US Constitution. As we speak today, the redlining continues. As we speak today, African countries are being made to pay ridiculous interest rates on loans that they should not be paying for. As we speak today, reparations are due. Everybody else has been given reparations, expect us. The question then becomes, what is wrong with this picture? Why are you and I standing up and demanding that what is right must be done? I can tell you why. Because no other race would stand for a minute what is being done to us. How long do you think a finger of a British soldier lasts in Zimbabwe? How long do you think a thumb of a German soldier lasts in Namibia? Not even a minute. They would storm in kill hundreds, if not thousands of people just to recover that one finger? Why is it that we are unable to come together and speak our truth and demand that what needs to be done must be done? It's because they defeated us where it matters the most, which is the mind. It started with the missionaries in Africa long before slavery. They were sent by the Roman Catholic Church to subdue the Africans, make them believe that when you get slapped, turn the other cheek, and that your riches are in heaven. So by the time they followed with the colonizers to reap and rape Africa, we were already brainwashed. We were meant to believe everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything European was better. And the same brainwashing continued as our children were taken out of Africa enslaved. It continued on the plantations, color gradations, light-skinned versus dark-skinned, field workers versus kitchen workers. To this day, we suffer from the legacy of slavery and the legacy of colonization. For how long are we going to continue to suffer from this affliction? For it is singularly the reason why we are not able to come together just like other races and nationalities have done in this melting pot that is the United States of America. When you ask for the voices of the Irish Americans loud and clear, Jewish Americans loud and clear, German Americans, Italian Americans, Chinese Americans, Indian Americans, their voices are loud and clear. But when you ask for the voices of us black people, you might as well go to the graveyard, because we are missing in action. We were taught, we were brainwashed into not even loving ourselves as individuals, let alone each other. We were taught not to trust one another. We were taught not to believe that my brother can, my sister can, but somebody else who doesn't look like you and I is better. The question I have for all of you, just close your eyes and think about your children, your grandchildren. Is this the world you want to leave behind for them? If the answer is no, then you need to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. Because it is the image in the mirror that must change. It is the image in the mirror that must understand that you are sick from this affliction of the legacy of slavery. You are not sick at home. You are not sick in the doctor's waiting room. You are not sick in the hospital ward. You are sick in the intensive care. How long are we going to continue to support other people's agendas? Those who stood up to fight during the civil rights movement, during the Pan-African days in Africa, civil rights in the United States, they were all silenced. We are emerging out of a period of 20 to 30 years where just nothing is going on. We are all fast asleep. When are we going to wake up? Reverend Al Sharpton is saying, the time to wake up is now. Reparations now. We know all the companies that benefited from slavery. We have their name. We have the list. They must pay. As we speak, many have pledged their contributions. Guess what's going to happen, my brothers and sisters? Because we're not organized. we will never realize those funds. And they will hide behind, they are disorganized. They don't know what they're doing. I am now going to be asking Reverend Al Sharpton to lead us as we demand those reparations. We need to register a global Pan-African fund that can make sure that we have development in black communities where it belongs. Those funds must be organized. Those funds must be paid for. Reparations for black people now.
You don't expect those who put us in a position of servitude to undo the damage. They will continue it for as long as we're stupid enough to continue to listen to their lies. Wake up, Africa. Wake up, black people around the world. Africa is your problem. Own it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For Africa to change, for you to be able to benefit from what is yours. What's in Africa is the inheritance of every black person on earth. But if you're stupid enough to listen to the lies, and while they continue to exploit you, Africa, while they continue to amass wealth for their children, grandchildren, and generations to come, then the joke on you. Why are we still going to the United Nations as Africans? That is a useless entity. It's not for us. The largest voting bloc in the United Nations are the African nations. We don't have a seat on the table. Why do we go there? We go to the United Nations to vote on their issues. They pay African countries, vote with us on this issue, vote with us on this issue. We have no business going to the United Nations, period. We need to tell Secretary Guterres, thank you very much, but we're no longer going to attend United Nations. It's not our entity. Until we have true representation. Goodbye. Why is...
Now picture this now. So they cut up this Africa into the tiny little countries, small economies that could never survive on their own, but gave them the same sovereignty as the big boys. So that way, when the little bitty countries go to the world stage for the purposes of development and discussing trade, they're wannabe boxers who are being thrown into the heavyweight boxing ring every day. IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it at 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa.
All in one place. Get your favorite live sports on YouTube TV. Terms apply. Cancel anytime.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.
I love talking about reparations. You only hear that on Big C Sports Podcast. What if our good old brethren from the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, if they put as much effort into doing things that benefit all people, because reparations will stimulate this economy. I've let you hear from some powerful people that are bigger than Big C Sports, that we want to do the right thing by our country and by our people. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love it saying reparations now, reparations forever. You got to get reparations to happen. Senate Bill 1331 and 1403, they didn't even get called, and now they're back on deck for 2025. But it's going to happen. I want to tell you, last night, NFL football, the Cincinnati Bengals, they fell at home to the Washington Commanders 38-33, and the Buffalo Bills, they blew out the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was 47-10. What a bargain. What a great game that was. But I got to tell you, NFL football, all the owners Not one of them are African American. Reparations is so deep, puts our butts to sleep, said the great Ice Cube. We're so lovely and supportive of teams where we stand up for the kickoff and stand up for the tip-off. But those organizations, they're not owned by black men and black women. The talent is black or African American. But I heard you hear from some bright minds how reparations is necessary. We know the companies that benefited on the free labor in the United States and in Europe, and now there are sports leagues that exclude black ownership. In the United States of America, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And most of our black men and women get on television and we suck a job about touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's gone all the way. And my contention is that there are decent people, black and white, that want to do the right thing. Slavery would not have ended had it not been for decent white people. Not every white person's evil, but the system of slavery was evil and racism's evil. But if we act like we're just happily saying, touchdown, home run, 3-point play, old man Willie, he's going all the way, then they'll let us keep doing that. I'm looking at ownership with Big C Sports Podcast. I'm watching the TV program for Big C Sports. It hasn't been easy. There have been some delays, even some shenanigans. But I still rise and shine. There's a $20 billion industry in NFL football. $20 billion! And all those companies are white. But they would not exist without the black labor. Well, basically, what do you mean? They got guys that sign multi-million-dollar contracts. If someone can give you a multi-million-dollar contract, doesn't that tell you how much money they have? And for the most part, those contracts are not guaranteed. He may sign a $100 million contract and $50 million is guaranteed, but the owner is worth $6 billion. A lot of that money came out of the homestead and also money from slavery. Bequeathed. The labor didn't go away. It did not disappear into thin air. It didn't. It was bequeathed down from generation to generation. And that's why most every owner of every professional football league, team, NBA basketball league, team, Major League Baseball league, team, they're Caucasian. They can trace their ancestry back to the homestead or slavery. And I'm asking for good people, decent people, you people, to open the doors for ownership. I got to tell you important. CBS Sports, they announced after the USC-Michigan football game that CBS makes major announcement regarding the USC Trojans and the Michigan Wolverines showdown. It was just Saturday. It was a great game. In a classic Big Ten showdown on Saturday, currently the number 12 ranked Michigan Wolverines, they edged by, with the help of some officiating, the number 13 USC Trojans with a game-winning drive that emphasized their commitment to the run game. But some of the broadcasters, they've been talking about some illegal horse collars that were not called, some face mask penalties that were not called. Now, I'm not blaming the players. The players, they played to win the game. But joining the Big Ten, the oligarchy, they were protected. That image was protected. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. And even Lincoln Riley, he squeaked about it. He should be more bombastic about it. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. But I got to tell you, when you look at who won this game, USC and Michigan, it was the people who own CBS. The advertising dollar, the number of people that watched it, it was amazing. When you realize the viewership, despite being an old-fashioned style football, fans tuned in. CBS Sports PR made a noteworthy announcement on today regarding the showdown. The CBS Sports presentation of USC Michigan was the most watched game of the week across any network, with a total of 6,321,000 viewers. To watch primarily black men play football for free. The matchup drew over 10 million views, making the Wolverines' victory the most watched Week 4 game on CBS in 10 years. It was up 37% compared to last season's highest rated game between Ole Miss and Alabama. Why do you say that, Big C? Why do you say that? Because Michigan head coach Sharon Moore, he makes about a fourth of the money that USC coach Lincoln Riley makes. But they won the game. Think about that. I'm not knocking Lincoln Riley. I'm saying the system that pays a white man over $11 million a year to coach black kids for the most part, and a black man at Michigan makes about a quarter of his contract. But Michigan played for the national championship last year. Sharon Moore was part of the team coaching staff. Lincoln Riley hasn't played for a national championship while being at USC and giving that $11 million a year. I'm not knocking Lincoln Riley. I'm saying the system of giving a white man 4 times the money, and he can't win a game against a black coach making a quarter of the money. That same oligarchy is there that has always tried to rob African American men from ownership and coaching. But you can go play touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. They love you when you play games. They love you when you run down the football fields and the basketball courts and the baseball fields. And I'm opening doors for ownership with Big C Sports. I'm asking for, and I mean this, for $1 billion. I got some reach in Saudi Arabia, men of color, to support Big C Sports Podcast, to become a household name, to become the #1 sports show in the universe, because I have meat on the bone. I'm egalitarian. I give everybody an opportunity. As I grow this network, I got God's favor, and now I need your favor. But there has been some resistance when I'm trying to grow and rise and shine. I'm going to keep rising and shining. God knows I'm going to rise and shine. $1 billion. That's all it takes. You know why it makes more sense to support Big C Sports Podcast? I'm the only sports show in the universe that talks about what's going to uplift the entire continent, United States and Africa. Reparations are due. There's been a big push in California for reparations. You only hear about it on Big C Sports. Most of our black men and women, they're just, for whatever reason, they're not doing anything to get reparations, which is money that's due. I got mine, get yours. But there are enough decent white men and women that know the money's due, and they will support it. Now, there's always going to be those Governor Wallace type that talk about segregation now, segregation forever. But most of those people have died. They passed on. But there's a lot of good people that want to do the right thing. I'm the only sports show in the universe that talks about asset protection. Hut 1, Hut 2, asset protection. Asset protection is powerful. I can get into sports, and everybody does. But Big C Sports has meat on the bone. When you finish eating the Big C Sports, what meat on the bone, Big C? I said when you finish eating Big C Sports meat on the bone, you can grow the economy. And that's why I'm asking corporations from sea to shining sea to do the right thing that Dr. King talked about, that President Abraham Lincoln talked about, that even God talked about. We got to do the right thing. And reparations will stimulate this economy. Who does not want the economy stimulated? I'm asking all people, all faiths, religions, beliefs, men and women. I want your support for this program, because as more programs caught with the style of Big C Sports, it's not just about sports. It's about how do we help people? How do we build economies that will stimulate this country, that gives people jobs and opportunity? I know we love sports as a mechanism to get away. But when you realize 90% not much has changed when it comes to who owns the sports leagues and who's the worker bees. The black men have been the worker bees since integration. From Jackie Robinson in baseball, Brad Ritchie allowed baseball to expand to allow men of color to play because they made more money. Imagine when we start talking about things that stimulate the economy. It will infuse the economy. And sports, as I said, is a billion-dollar industry. The boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. I love doing it with Big C Sports Podcast. I love so much about the sports business that it's one of the only things in the world, in fact, one of the only things in the universe that will bring people together, black and white, brown, yellow, red, whatever you want to call it. Different faiths, different religions, men and women, old and young. Even the church can't do that. Most churches are segregated. That doesn't please God. There's no partiality in Christ. And what sports can do, even the clergy's failed at doing. In Big C Sports, not only do I bring sports and the clergy and politics together like a beautiful gumbo. Imagine when more people start working together, like Dr. King talked about. Who doesn't love Dr. King in his I Have a Dream speech? At the same time, I'm asking the sports leagues, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball to embrace Big C Sports. And I'm so proud of what the NFL is trying to do. On the back of the end zones, it says it takes all of us. Some end zones, it says end racism. It says stop hate. They're trying to put a message out there. So I appreciate Roger Goodell for that. I'm asking NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, embrace the image of Big C Sports. I'm asking NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, embrace the image of Big C Sports. Imagine what happens when we fulfill that dream that Dr. King talked about. We can stimulate the economy, and reparations will do that. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. As I tell you, let's get ready to rumble! I'm about to say welcome to the show. As we nominated Big C Sports Podcast, I gotta tell you, I love doing this show. I want people to understand about the reparations piece. I got that piece from the Dr. ACQ from Double O, which is an Economics Awareness Talk program. That's a great program that she airs. You can Google it on access to sacramento.org and also KUBU 96.5 FM and eachprivate.net. We all need to hear that. It wasn't just Dr. King that was championing for reparations. It's a lot of people all over the world. I had the chance to interview some great people about reparations over the years, and I'm so proud of what's happening in the world, starting to wake up. Smart people, decent people, you people, the good people are talking about doing the right thing and stimulating this economy, and I just thank God for that opportunity. I want to say that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. If you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. Is one of the easiest things I can do. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off. But don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone who's loved by somebody else. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. As I've always been told, my beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever go through that crap. If you are going through it, you need more LEADER in your life. LEADER is an acronym for Love is the Answer. I was told that by a good friend of mine that I saw today. He's getting better. Day by day in every way, he's getting better and better and better. If someone loves you, they don't hit you. Only hit you because you make me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't choke you. Only choke you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't beat you. Only beat you because you made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. Things change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy on my mother's side, my great-grandmother, Mamo, and my great-grandfather, Pop. Loving, kind people. always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly, and always saying when these young boys came in from out playing and out in the backyard all dirty, "Hey, Grandma, I'm hungry. Can I have some ribs?" She said, "Baby, go wash your hands. You can have some ribs." "I don't have time to wash my hands. I'm hungry now." She said, "Boy, go wash your hands before you get some ribs. I told you I'm too hungry to wash my hands." She said, "You wash your hands in this house." And then we wash our hands, and she let us have some ribs and some collard greens. Love my grandmother with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful grandfather, Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player, known around his church buddies as making some of the best moonshine in the history of the universe. Can fix anything, planes, trains, and automobiles. Can fix anything. The great Pop, really do appreciate him, love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful grandparents, Mud Dad, Hezekiah, they were seers. They can oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and future. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. They still help me to this day. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys in Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. Dear mama, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You know my praise. I keep praising and praising and praising. God can do it. I deserve it. You know what I mean. Best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandparents, Alberta Curry, they were pastors, had 3 churches in Oakland, also owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. They owned 40 acres of land, like the Homestead Act that I talked about. The government gave white Americans 160 acres of land, and even white Europeans. They told black Americans no. That was wrong. I remember being 8 years old, walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt someone touch me on my forehead. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, "What are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, "Cookies and baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations." But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." And now Big C Sports Podcast is on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying, develop your mind to its highest extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful brother Ty with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when top of speak. Always saying, go forward. A voracious reader, he said, go forward, don't look back, because you don't have much backside anyway. So I've been doing more squats. He said my backside wasn't big enough. I said, I love my backside, Todd, but I do have to do more squats to make my backside bigger. I want a stronger looking backside, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, it matters to some people. You know, Todd, we love Malcolm X, but we also love the movie called Pulp Fiction. It had Sam Jackson, Ben Rames, John Travolta, and Bruce Willis. Before the big fight, Ben Rames told Bruce Willis, "Come here, boy, sit your butt down and take this money. Remember, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Sit at there." And so Bruce Willis said, "Okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round." And Ben Rames said, "That stinging sensation you're feeling, well, that's just pride. Flubbing with you." And he said what a lot of football players say to each other. He said, "Flub pride." He said, "Pride only hurts. It never helps." He says football's filled with a lot of unrealistic, muddly bluckers who think their butt gets better with time like fine wine. But it don't. In terms of nigga, did it do? One day you're going to think Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling in the Caribbean. You're going to say Uncle Marsalis is right. Remember, take this money and your butt goes down in the 5th round. We know that Bruce Willis didn't take the dive and he lost his elite privileges. I love my brother Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate and 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against him will prosper. Daisy said at the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast, back in the days of Salem Media, it became the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They would normally go to ESPN, but because of 2 black men in the crew, we made the station number 1. They called us the Dream Team, and the shenanigans set in. But I'm still standing. Daisy also scored 6 goals in a soccer game. Now, she's a right-footed kicker. She did it left-footed. Daisy for the kick. Daisy for the goal. Goal, 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 goal. And the team won the game. Daisy can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You're a great woman. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Always trust God. Isaiah 50:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You can be anything you want to be. In fact, Malcolm, he helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast on players and teams. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now I'm streaming on 29 platforms and also streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And then shortly after that, you can see it streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies, always saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. I have no scripts. I have no 3-minute teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. They said that's how you talk to God. And that's why I talk so loud, because I want God to hear me. God, you know my praise. You know I praise your name. I deserve it now, God. I deserve it now. Do it now. You know what I mean, Father. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love closing every show by saying my praise for Martin Luther King Jr. and President Abraham Lincoln. And I want to champion, after I say Drew Boudini Brown and Muhammad Ali. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. There was no fighter greater than Muhammad Ali. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want to close by saying what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said and America's 16th President Abraham Lincoln. What do they want? Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super, fantastic day.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.